আমার সোনার বাংলা, আমি তোমায় ভালোবাসি।
Hello everyone and welcome back to Explore with NTV. I hope you enjoyed our singing. I'm Nadira and I hope you are all very well and are excited to learn a new educational topic. And so Tusby will be explaining what today's special episode is about.
Hello friends, and I hope you enjoyed Independence Day of Bangladesh, and I'm going to explain what today's topic is about. Today's topic is about Bangladeshi Independence Day, and we're going to be talking about Bangladesh.
Yeah, and I think that today's Bangladeshi Independence Day is extra special because it's the 50th Jubilee, so it's been 50 years since Bangladesh was first independent.
Yeah, like a golden jubilee.
Yeah, that's really cool. And so I also see we have Flora with us. Hi Flora.
Hi everyone.
How are you, Flora?
I'm great.
Are you excited to learn about Bangladeshi history and Independence Day?
Yeah.
And so since we also sang the national anthem, do you really enjoy the national anthem?
Yes, I do.
Me too.
What are some things you like about Bangladesh? Some things I like about Bangladesh is the landscape of Bangladesh, and because it's so beautiful. Would you like to ever visit Bangladesh? Yes, because I'd like to see it very much. Do you have a message for everybody celebrating Bangladeshi Independence Day? Yes, I do. I hope you had fun celebrating Bangladeshi Independence Day.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Flora. I really enjoyed your answers.
Bye. Bye.
And so what about you, Tusby? How do you celebrate Bangladeshi Independence Day?
Well, I give some flowers to the soldiers who fought in the war.
Oh, that's really nice.
Yeah. What about you, Nadira?
I would say normally for Bangladeshi Independence Day, my mum and dad usually talk to us a lot about the history, remind us about all the things that have happened, especially when we sit together and have our dinner. So I think it's always really nice to cook nice food and share and talk about the history. And so have you ever actually visited Bangladesh?
Yes, when I was very young, I
Really?
visited
Oh.
Bangladesh. And I don't really remember it, but it looked very beautiful around.
Oh,
And I saw a flower market with very beautiful flowers.
ooh, that's nice.
How about you, Nadira?
So I personally haven't gone to Bangladesh yet. My family, of course, has. My siblings have, but that was quite a while ago. So I'm not sure if they remember it, but I definitely really want to visit Bangladesh. I think it's so beautiful and it's really nice to connect with your own culture, isn't it?
Yeah.
And so what part of Bangladesh are you actually originally from, or your family?
Well, my mum is from Sylhet and my dad is from Dhaka, so I'm kind of half Sylhet, half Dhaka.
Yeah.
What's your opinion, Nadira?
So for me, both my parents are from Sylhet, and actually I have something to show the audience. So this is a map of Sylhet City Corporation, and my dad was originally from Ward 7, so that was very close to Shubid Bazar Road. And so my mum was also from Sylhet, but it wasn't from this particular location, it was a bit different. But I do think it's nice that my dad has a map of where he is originally from.
Yeah.
And so what are some aspects of Bengali culture that you really like?
Well, I like the songs
Ooh,
and
yeah.
the dances, and sometimes when I have free time, I dance to the songs and make up
Aw.
my own moves. What are your thoughts, Nadira?
Well, I think that there's two parts of culture, and I really like the outer layer, which is what I would consider the things that you do. So that could be the singing, the dancing, the food. I also like the dresses. They're always really fun and very beautiful. But I think a more important part of Bengali culture is the inner part of what makes a culture, which is like its values. And one thing that I really like is how Bengali people are so family oriented, you know. I think that's a really important part of Bengali culture, and that's something that I really love.
Yeah.
Yeah. And obviously, of course, other parts of culture are also important, including food. So I'd like to know, what's your favorite Bengali food or meal?
Well, it's pakora.
Oh.
Even though it's spicy, I normally don't like spicy. I have it because of the taste.
Yeah.
What about you, Nadira?
I would say I like a lot about the food that is from Bangladesh, including like rice and curry and stuff. I grew up eating those foods, but I think something special that I really like is things like samosas or fiyazis. Often my mum makes those when it's like Ramadan, for instance.
Yeah.
And so let's move on to talking a bit more about the history of Bangladesh. And so, do you know why the Bangladeshi flag looks the way it does?
Well, yes. Well, the green part is like the nature and landscape, and the red part, which is the red circle, is the blood of the soldiers who fought in it, like the war.
Yeah.
Why did Bangladesh want to be an independent country?
So at the time of the when Bangladesh wanted to be independent, they weren't their own country. They were part of Pakistan. So there was West and East Pakistan, and East Pakistan is actually what we consider Bangladesh now. But West Pakistan was in control of East and West Pakistan, and they weren't actually very nice to the East Pakistani people. Actually, Sheikh Mujib, who is a politician, he ran for to be a part of the election, and he won the election to be the Prime Minister of Pakistan, so both East and West. But then the West Pakistani people, even though he was elected very fairly as the Prime Minister, they still didn't like him. And actually he went to prison afterwards as well because of that. And so it was just really unfair, and Sheikh Mujib was like, this is not fair at all, and if that's happening, then I want my own country to be the Prime Minister. And so he decided on the 26th of March to make Bangladesh its own country so that he could rule Bangladesh as the Prime Minister. And so do you know exactly what date that happened? So when did Bangladesh become independent?
Yes, it was 1971, the 26th of March, which was this Friday.
Yeah, so again, 50 years ago, that's a good way of remembering it. And actually, my mum was born 50 years ago, so she was actually born during the war that was happening in Bangladesh at the time.
Wow.
Yeah.
That must be very hot.
Yeah. And so, do you know what country actually helped Bangladesh during that war to gain independence?
Yes, it was India.
Yeah.
And I think they had a meeting on agreeing to that.
Yeah, and actually India also did help train a lot of the soldiers. At the time, they were obviously, they didn't have their own country, so they didn't have their own army, which meant that they needed to also fight, and so they need to be prepared to fight. And India really helped them get trained and facilitated a lot of that support. So definitely India did a huge help to Bangladesh.
Who were some famous people that helped Bangladesh become independent?
So the most famous person that helped Bangladesh become independent is Sheikh Mujib. He was the primary leader of the campaign to make Bangladesh independent, and he was dealing a lot with like how the war was going and helping support the whole community. He really believed that Bangladeshi people should be unique in their own, and they should live in their own country peacefully without Pakistani people interfering or the government interfering with that. And so, do you know anything interesting about how Bangladesh celebrates the Independence Day?
Well, yes, so some people go to the streets and participate in some parades. And some people give flowers to the soldiers like I do.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So, why should we be proud to be from Bangladesh?
So I think being Bangladeshi is so amazing. I think everyone should be proud to be Bengali because of the fact that, you know, this history does prove that the Bangladeshi people fought for their culture. They fought to be independent and to be their own. So I think that now all those soldiers, of course, they died for us, and so they never got to experience what it was like living in Bangladesh or being Bengali and being proud of their own culture. But we get to appreciate that and be proud of that. And so that's why I think it's really important to be proud of where you're from. And do you know anything very interesting about the Bengali geography and the Bangladesh and how it's located?
Yes. So mostly the nature, but there's a place called Cox's Bazar, and it's a beach, one of the biggest beaches in the whole world.
Wow.
Yeah. What movement happened before Bangladeshi independence?
So the movement that happened before Bangladeshi independence was actually the language movement, and that was really important because at the time, obviously East Pakistan and West Pakistan, it was from the same, the Pakistani government was controlling it, and so Bengali people were expected to speak Urdu, and that's actually not the language that they wanted to speak. They wanted to speak Bengali. So they thought that, I want to stick to my own language and I want to fight for that. And actually, Bangladesh is the only country in the world that has ever fought for their own language. So that marks history, world history. It's not just Bengali.
Yeah, like Cox's Bazar is the biggest beach.
So actually, yeah, exactly. So that just proves there's so many things about Bangladesh that are really unique and important in history.
Yeah. How many villages are there in Bangladesh and how big are they?
So there's actually 68,000 villages, and it's all 40,000 miles big. Square meters big. And so that just shows that there's so many people that live in Bangladesh, and such a big country that has lots of different places that you can go and visit. And so, Tasbi, how have you learned the language, and do you speak Bengali at home?
Well, sometimes, and my dad really encourages me to speak Bengali because he's Bengali and born in Bengal.
That's the same with my family. So I'm always encouraged to speak Bengali at home. Actually, my grandma, she doesn't speak English at all, and so I have to communicate with her in Bengali. So sometimes, especially when I visit her, I do try and practice a lot more just to make sure that I can speak to her and communicate with her really nicely.
Yeah, that's the same with me. And I also teach my grandma how to speak English.
Oh,
and
that's nice.
Sometimes she doesn't understand me when I talk to her though.
Oh, but I think it is really nice to speak the language, or at least learn how to improve yourself in that language, because it does make me feel closer to my culture and it makes me feel Bengali.
Yeah, it does.
And so what other things do you do? Like, if there's a special event, do you like wearing like the Asian dresses?
Well, yeah, if it's close to Asian, then I do. But if it's a bit more closer to English, then I probably wear some English clothes then.
Yeah. But like in weddings and stuff, I really enjoy wearing Asian dresses.
Yeah, that's what I do.
Actually, I remember when I was 16, the first time I ever wore a sari was when I was 16, and I was so happy. I felt like I was such a grown-up, and I was wearing a sari, and it made me feel really good.
It's nice to feel good in your culture.
Yeah. And so I also think, other than the dresses and stuff, like how you said with the music, I think it's also nice, like how we were singing the national anthem. I think it's good to listen to some music that is Bengali,
Yeah, like I said, I like to dance to the music.
And that's often that happens in like big events like the Bangladeshi Independence Day. The parades that you were mentioning that happen in Bangladesh, they would obviously have lots of music there.
Yeah, they do have lots of music there, and maybe there's some types of parades that you do, and parades are mostly about dancing. So
yeah, about dancing, music, food, all of that nice stuff.
Yeah, and floats.
Yeah. And so that's all that we have for this first segment. I hope you learned a lot about Bangladesh history and culture. So bye everyone, see you after the break.
Bye. and welcome back after the break. In this segment, we normally read books. So, Nadira, what book would you like to read?
I would like to read this book, but before we do that, we have a few things that we would like to show the audience. And so we have these mini flags. You can pick some up, Tasvi.
Okay.
Here you go.
Thanks.
And we have all of these cute mini flags on our desk, and I thought it would be really nice to share to the audience how to make them. So it's really, really simple. All you do is you get a stick and you can print or paint or draw the actual Bangladeshi flag. Thankfully, the Bangladeshi flag is really easy to do, isn't it? It's just a circle in a flag. So you can do that and then put these all around your house, or maybe hang them up or hold them for the Bangladeshi Independence Day, and I think that would be really nice.
Yeah, and you can also dance with them.
Yeah, you can. It's nice to wave the little flags around, isn't it?
Yeah.
So do you have flags in your house, or do you normally see the flags anywhere else?
Well, yeah, I have some in my house, and like I said, I like to dance.
Yeah.
So I dance with them around the house.
And that's the same with me. I have a massive flag of Bangladesh in my house as well. It's always nice to look at the flags, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
And so, Tasbi, could you pass me that book there?
Yeah, sure.
So this book is actually the pictorial biography of Sheikh Mujib, and this is a very nice picture of him right there. So I'll be showing you lots of different pictures, but before we do that, let's have a little bit of a read about his life. And so let's look at some of his personal information about him. So he was born on the 17th of March in 1920, so that was 101 years ago. That's when he was born.
Wow.
Yeah. And he has 5 children, and some of the things that he did was that he studied history and political science at university in 1947. He also went to Dhaka University and became part of the East Pakistan Student League in 1948. So you can see from that he's done so much political things throughout his life. And actually, Hussein Saeed Shuhrawadi was his political guru. So that was kind of like his teacher that mainly helped him learn about politics and get involved in politics. And so a little bit more about what he did specifically for Bangladesh. In 1975, the 25th of January, he composed the presidential system which intrigued while she was in exile. And shortly afterwards, she returned to Bangladesh and was given a very warm welcome by millions of people, and is now actually the current Prime Minister of Bangladesh.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so the current Prime Minister of Bangladesh, her father was extremely important. He was a founding father of Bangladesh. That's very nice, isn't it?
Yeah.
And so here are some of the photos of Sheikh Mujib and his life. So you can see there's lots of things about him, giving speeches, helping people. And I think it's all very interesting. All of the photos are in black and white because at the time it was difficult to have colored cameras. But there's also lots of newspaper articles all about his impact and the things that he has done. You can see here he's smiling in that photo. I think it's really nice. There's quite a lot of pictures actually in this one, so it's all the things that he's done throughout his life. And as we've read, he has done so many things from when he was in his university studying political science to when he actually became an activist and the Prime Minister. So I think that's a really interesting book, don't you think?
Yeah.
You can see some pictures of his family and newspaper articles of all the things that he has done. So I think this is a really inspirational book and I really like it. You want to put that back, Tasbi?
Yes.
So yeah, I definitely enjoy reading that and looking back at some of the photos on Bangladeshi Independence Day.
Yes.
So Tasbi, what book would you like to read?
I'd like to read that book.
Ooh, here you go, Tasbi.
Thank you. Okay, so this book has some poems, and one of them is made by Kusum Kumari Das.
Yeah, and he's a famous Bengali poet.
And the poem is called Never Hurt Anyone, Whatever Be the Circumstances. If you hurt someone on any occasion, it will bounce on you as retribution. If you throw a stone at anyone, you will be paid back one day in return. Don't think of a bush to be a safe place to go. So long people don't speak to one another. Their good and bad qualities are not known to each other. So long you do not get to know them closely. Be careful of them, as some of them may be deadly. Don't think of a bush to be a safe place to go. Perhaps a leopard may lie in ambush below.
Wow, so I think that poem really highlights the fact that, you know, it's a terrible thing to be horrible or mean to other types of people. And I think that really highlights, you know, today's episode because, you know, at the time, Bangladesh was highly discriminated against by the Pakistani government. So yeah, I think that poem is very important.
Yeah. Don't rejoice in the death of your foe. That's what this next poem is
And it's by
called.
the same author.
Yeah.
Same writer, poet.
Don't rejoice in the death of your foe, 'cause when you will die you don't know. The best among human beings is he who gives away everything without keeping a penny. Is the best human being around in the country? The next best human being adjudged in the society is he who keeps some for him and gives away the tea, but show his deeds with humility. Who would display courage without swerving, with a smile in his lips and velvet in his heart? To turn into a real man and be real smart, become courageous and when exposed to danger, and march and leap forward without fear. Do they not have strength, blood, flesh, and life at length? Try to be like a fruit tree if you can try to be, disrupting good things to all three. If you can't keep yourself on one side, not involving yourself in the fight. Don't be afraid to dive in the water. If a diver is afraid to dive in the water, he can never collect pearls no matter. All his efforts will go to vain if he can't dive ignoring pain.
Yeah, I really like that poem. I think it's about, you know, the quality of how people should act when, especially with the soldiers. I think that poem is very relevant since it was written during that time period.
Yeah.
So can I have it?
Yes, here you go.
And so just before we end, we'd also like to mention that for everyone who is Bengali, you should definitely have, at least once in your life, the opportunity to go to Bangladesh. So it's obviously a great thing, and I would highly recommend that.
Yeah, so you can see your own country with your own eyes.
Yeah.
And naturally.
And so that's all that we have for this segment, and we'll see you after the break.
Bye!
Hi everyone, and welcome back from the break. So in this third segment we have a wonderful guest with us, and her name is Pia. Hi, how are you?
Hello Nadira, hi, I'm fine, thank you. Thank you very much for asking me to come. Hello Tasbi.
Hi.
And so we'd love to get to know you a lot better, and we have a few questions for you.
Sure.
So firstly, how do you celebrate Bangladeshi Independence Day?
Well, usually when it's not lockdown, we would go to an event where there's something musical, cultural going on. That would be the usual sort of things. Otherwise, just cook good food. We love good food. We love any occasion, and this is a very good occasion for good food, which I'm doing today as well.
Yeah.
So, where are you calling us from?
I'm calling you from South London, where I live, my home. And so this is near Elephant and Castle.
Oh, okay.
I'm a South Londoner.
And so how have you been handling the lockdown and the pandemic?
Well, I have been working. I am a solicitor, and my profession is the law. I'm a lawyer. So I have been working from home since the start of the pandemic. In fact, we're doing everything from home, from the office work to even courts. So instead of going to the court, we're doing it from just like this, through Zoom meetings and things. But we have a full day of work.
Yeah.
Can you describe your family for us?
My family, well, my immediate family, I have 3 lovely children. Well, they're quite big now. I have one adult child. He's working, and he just finished university and started working. And I have a daughter who's also at university, and then I also have another daughter who's still at school, but a teenager.
Yeah.
So that's my immediate family, and of course their father. And then we also have the wider families here. I have my brothers and sisters and my mother, everybody's very busy with. Surprisingly, although it's locked down, they're still very much busy. Life has changed so much; it's so difficult, but they still have to get on with their work or their studies. And as you both will know, schools have opened again, and so my younger daughter has been going to school.
Oh, okay, that's good.
And that's right.
And so, what are some of your passions, and like, how do you spend your time and working on your passions?
Well, my passion is, as I said, I'm a lawyer. I love the law. I love everything related to the law. First and foremost, justice, meaning that I like things to be fair. And so that is one of my passions, which is why I chose this job. And also I have another passion, which is music. And I have, from a very young age, like yourselves, I mean, I was born in Bangladesh, but I came here when I was 3 months old.
Wow.
And way back in the 70s, early 70s. And then you have, from about teenage onwards, I would listen to, I was exposed to Bengali music from my parents. My father's friends used to come to our house, and we used to have some gatherings, and they used to be singing, and his friend's daughter used to play the harmonium.
Oh,
which
wow.
I was fascinated, which I was fascinated by, and so I wanted to learn. But I always kept that as a hobby, and I have learned on and off, and that's really my passion, and that's really how I have stayed in touch with my culture as well. I suppose that gives me it puts me in a place where I can be in touch with my culture, language, and and I suppose through that, my love for Bangladesh, which I wasn't raised in Bangladesh, but it has grown as well. So through the music, I can understand, and of course we have visited as well on several occasions.
Yeah.
So So, what do you normally do in your free time?
In my free time, I practice my music. As I just said, I love practicing because I'm not, because I don't do it for a profession or anything. So I get really bad. So if I don't practice, I get really bad. So but actually, this practice isn't just practice. It's very much meditation. I also, with my children, who are, as you know now, are teenagers and an adult, with them, I also took them to Bengali school. I myself, when I was very small, I went to Bengali school. My father, but there was something called can't remember now, Fieldgate Street. There was a school there where he used to take us, where we would learn Bengali, and so I've tried to do the same for my children. But I must say that I don't know, you two can tell me even better than that. I think it's more difficult for them. At the time, people had sort of just come into UK. Well, not just. I mean, they've been here for 10 years, 20 years before us. People have been here from the 60s. And so, but the schools were starting and things like that. And I think with my children, because I've always been in South London, it was difficult to find, but we did find that. So where I would learn singing, and my children would learn Bengali and singing as well, with somebody who viewers of NTV may well know, you two might not, and his name is Mahmudur Rahman Benu. So Benu Bhai, yeah. So he was in the time of the Bangladesh War. He had a artist group called Mukti Shilpi Shongstha, something like that. I'm not even. It's like Mukti Shilpi Shongstha, or something along those lines, where he had created a group, and they would go from army camp to army camp in the Liberation War, and they would sing to the army people to make them feel good, to make them feel empowered and boost their morale. So that was my teacher for a very, very long time, and that's where, and in all my free time, actually, that's what I do. So hence I'm speaking about that quite a lot.
And so let's move on to some of the more questions about your culture and how you practice your culture. So how did you start learning about Bangladesh and its history?
Okay, so as I said, so from the music that I used to hear, obviously I didn't understand all the words, and I didn't understand, even although my parents, like any of you, because when we go to school we speak English quite a lot. So when I came home, I did have to speak Bengali to my parents, but it was never any good. And so it was switching between English and Bengali all the time. So it wasn't that good. So when I listened to music, I didn't understand it. I loved the tunes, but I didn't understand it. So, I used to ask, and as I said, I did my GCSEs as a Bengali as well, but apart from that, my father also made sure he took us to Bangladesh on a 2 or 3 times when we were quite small, and over there we had teachers and we learned Bengali. At the time it was like boring, but it was really boring, and we thought, why do we have to do this? But I'm really glad I did it, because like that you learn. But obviously in music, and the sort of music that I like Rabindra Sangeet or Nazrul Giti, the Bengali is really difficult. It's not like, Asho Bosho Cow. It's not very simple. It's very, very difficult. And so asking my parents, asking the teachers. When teachers teach you songs, they also explain it. And slowly but surely your vocabulary builds. And that's it really. Just, I suppose, just mixing with the community people as well, who speak Bengali, and you're just, anything you can do better when you're exposed to it. When you have to do it. So that just like that, you had to do it. But I do remember when I got married, even then my Bengali wasn't very good. My husband used to laugh at me. He used to say that again, what did you say? And then I used to, laugh at his English. And so that's but you just get on with it, and, it's part of your, it's part of you. You know that. Even with my children, they're worse than me. They're worse than I am, because the difference is, when our parents, we still had to talk Bengali with them. And because my mum would refuse, she used to say, she used to say in Bengali, what are you saying? Say it in Bengali. Because we were brought up here, I became quite lazy. So it's really easy. I've had a tough day or whatever. It's just easy for me to talk in English. To talk in Bengali with them and to make them understand, it's very difficult. So then actually it's more tough for them, because I easily speak English with them and they speak English with me.
Yeah.
But I do know, they do know. Sometimes I have these Bengali days, and I'll say to them, right, I'm going to speak Bengali with you, and they're going to say, oh, but and they understand. They understand. So what I'm saying, they know it's part of them as well, and it will grow. So I think as in childhood, it's not as strong, because in childhood you're first, the major part of the day, and schooling is a major thing. You are speaking English. You were going to school with, in the 80s I went to school, 90s. When I went to school, there wasn't a huge number of Bengalis. There was a good mixture in the primary school.
Yeah.
And in the secondary school, there wasn't. We're having to talk English all the time. But slowly but surely we get there, and I think my kids will get there as well.
Yeah. And so what about you, Tasvi? Do you have a question?
Yes, I do. And the question is, why do you think it is important to know of the history of where you are from?
Because the history of where you're from, because it's who you are. Because as we go through life, every one of us, sooner or later, even if we're not curious when we're really small, we want to know where we're from. Unless we know where we're from, we feel empty. And this is true. I don't know. I don't know how to explain this, but you need to know what your background is, where your ancestors came from, where your mum and dad came from, your grandparents came from, because you are your DNA. We're made out of DNA, and all of that is from there. And also the families you live in, the families we live in, we have that culture, the Bengali culture. So you want to know where you're from, and unless you know that, you are missing you won't fully understand your identity. And identity is very important in a country like United Kingdom, because we go to school with people of lots of different backgrounds, not only English. There is English, but there's other backgrounds as well. So each of us need to know our background. There is so much to be proud about our backgrounds, and once we know that, and we feel proud about our background, and we know where we came from and what our history was about, it also builds a confidence in us. It makes us stronger people, better people. I think that's why. I forgot the question now, but I hope I answered it. I hope I have answered it. If not, you can ask me and I'll answer more.
And so, Tasvi, do you know what time it is?
Yes, it's our quiz time.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Please make the quiz easy. I've had a very tough day.
And so, the first question of the quiz is, which of the following famous writers wrote the national anthem of Bangladesh, Amar Shona Bangla? Was it Rabindranath Tagore, or Kazi Nazrul Islam, or Humayun Ahmed?
It was Rabindranath Tagore.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So the next question is, how long did the Independence War last? The options are 7 months, 9 months, or 1 year.
I think it was 9 months.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah. And so the next question is, how many of Sheikh Mujib's children are still alive to this day? Is it 1, 2, or 4?
2. I might get caught in this one.
Yeah, you're right. So actually 2 of his daughters are still alive to this day.
That's right.
Yeah.
What's the national animal of Bangladesh? Option 1, monkey. Option 2, tiger. Option 3, frog.
The tiger, I think.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's the Bengal tiger. That's the national.
Big tiger.
Yeah, that's the national animal. And so the next question is, which province of India did Sylhet originally belong to? Was it Assam, Bengal, or Bihar?
Assam.
Yeah, you're right.
What's the biggest river in Bangladesh? Option 1, Podda. Option 2, Shorma. Option 3, Meghna.
You're going to catch me out in that one. The biggest,
River
yeah.
in Bangladesh.
So, I think it's Shurma.
It's Podda.
Yeah,
Oh,
Poda's the longest one.
Well, I had to lose one. I'm probably going to lose more. Is there more? Are there more?
Oh no, that's actually the end of the quiz. So you did really well, considering you only got one
actually
question wrong.
sweating.
And so we'd also just like to end with this final note, which is Hajar As-Salam to all of the soldiers that has fought in the war and has given their life for our beautiful country, Bangladesh.
We love you all.
Yeah, we love you. And so that's the end of the show. Bye, everyone.
Bye. See you in the
Bye-bye.
next
Thank you very
episode.
much, Nadira and Tasbih. Thank you for having me.